the giant African snail in reproducing, because it releases all of its eggs into the soil automatically once it's traumatized.
So give me an idea of how destructive this snail is. What exactly does it do to our vegetation?
The giant African snail eats almost everything, right? And I mean almost everything. I think it's up to 500 plants. So you could just imagine if whatever you have in the back of your yard, it will eat it. And it goes beyond that. It actually eats material, infrastructure material.
Like
so
concrete?
Like sand and yes, it does. It does destroy surfaces. Yeah. So we're trying our best to contain whatever comes up on the boat in terms of material. So sometimes the sand will come up and you have giant African snail, so we'll sanitize the hardware and do what we have to do to ensure that we contain the giant African snail. So that is why we're doing a call to the general public to please get involved in all the snail collection activities that we have been doing in the 8 sites. Yeah, do not assume that, or just leave it up to the technical officers under agriculture. This is a sort of pest that requires you to come out and ensure that it doesn't spread, right? You have a responsibility here. And it's just like COVID. Remember when we went through the whole COVID issue, right? We had our personal responsibility to make sure that we take care of ourselves and to prevent transmit of COVID to others. It's the very same thing with pests. Yeah, we have to ensure that we prevent an outbreak, especially around our premises, so that it doesn't go onto people's farms. Yeah.
Now, what about in terms? Okay, how can people actually get involved with the eradication program? When, where, all of those details.
So on the Division of Food Security page, right, weekly we post out the schedules. Right, so when the officers would come in the different areas to do collection. And the reason why we post it out is to ensure that the residents have an idea of when we're going to come to your area to do the collection, right? We have been putting the notifications in people's mailboxes, and we have been trying that. We're also going to engage that mobile unit to go across communities very soon to hand out flyers. So that, to be vigilant, because we don't want to, the idea is not to make, to anticipate an outbreak and then we try to control. The idea is to prevent the spread. So you have to be vigilant before it gets into your premises. So let's try to control what we have and to prevent the spread coming onto other areas.
How much have we collected, destroyed so far? Do you have that quantified? Do you have that data at all, or?
What I can tell you is that we have exceeded 3,000 at a time in each area. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and we have started this some months before. So, and there are some situations that are allowing us to, that are preventing us from doing our job successfully. So sometimes when we cordon off areas, people still driving their vehicles on these areas and cutting the grass and putting it in the back of their vans to feed animals, right? And
wait. So they're using the snails as food for?
No, actually, they're using the grass as fodder,
right.
as food. But if you drive your vehicle onto the site, then chances are you're going to carry the eggs onto another site. Yeah, so that's the problem. So when we cordon off areas, we're asking farmers, please do not go and cut the grass in these areas because you will be contributing to the spread. And the giant African snail, it also carries the rat lungworm, and that is responsible for causing meningitis. So it's harmful to human health as well. So we're trying our best to contain the spread. And it involves you, it involves me. As I said, Trinidad has already lost the battle. We have a port of entry here. So we are trying our best. We approved the creation of a task force. So as time rolls on, you will see more and more efforts being introduced to prevent the spread of the giant African snail. And for World Food Day, that's okay. For World Food Day, we decided to separate the horticulture aspect from World Food Day, right? to ensure that, you know, we treat all the plants that are going to come to the horticultural show before it goes out to the public, right? So the necessary steps have been taken. I know people are asking why we moved the World Food Day from the parade grounds. Among all the reasons, the Friendsfield area, that is also a site for the giant African snail. And sometimes people want to park on the grass and they want to do what they want to do and ignore the police directions and all of that. But they don't understand that if it gets on your tire, you can transmit the eggs somewhere else. Yeah? So in order to contain and to control a lot of things, we decided to move it to the Shore Park Food Hub and to separate the horticulture part of World Food Day so that we control what comes to the horticultural show.
How much can this situation destroy, undo the effort you are making in terms of trying to establish a strong food security base here in Tobago?
Well, I'm hoping that we are vigilant right now, and we are aware that it can eat anything and everything. So we don't want to say that it will destroy everything, but it would cost you to eradicate the giant African snail, because you'd have to buy the bleach solution, you'd have, you know, there are a lot of things involved in the whole process. Mm-hmm. And just seeing these snails crawling everywhere on your premises could just crawl your skin, I could tell you that, yeah? However, I recently watched an interview where someone was saying everything we're saying is just negative about this snail. What I heard recently is that some chefs, they have been trying to prepare the giant African snail in a form that people will love it. So I guess they're hoping that people will love it so much that they will capture it and eat it, and that will control the numbers. Yeah. Some persons also ask why we don't introduce its natural predator. So there are two, and that's another good recommendation, except you cannot tell a possum, you know, just release an opossum and tell him, you just feed on the snails. It doesn't work like that. Just like you have a diet and a preference, right? Animals, they have diets and preferences, yeah? So, you know, so you have to think, you know, logically, and the logical answer would be, we have to be vigilant to prevent the spread, ensure that you understand the rules, right? If you're living in a zone, you get the bait, right? Make sure you put the bait under your tires at night, mm-hmm. right? So that when you leave from that site, then you wouldn't be transferring the eggs to another site. If you do come upon the snails, make sure you have on your gloves, right? And you capture it, you confine it, contain it, you throw the salt bleach solution with water, leave it for 24 hours, and then you burn it. That way it would not, you know, be reproduced into the you know, into the wild. Yes. So, yeah. So we have the responsibility to prevent the spread.
Now, when it comes to, you know, establishing the business sector in Tobago for agriculture, I know that's been a challenge for a long time. And each crop, it seems, like even if it go back to coconut, to citrus, all these things, there's lots of diseases that are prevalent and so on within the space that are making it a little bit challenging for our farmers to properly, to grow enough. So how are we treating with a lot of these other issues that are within the space?
So we have been having consultations across Tobago, how to control pests, right? Mm-hmm. And let me stop to say that is why when I took this job up, I said that agriculture is a science and a business. Yes. And once you understand that it is a science, then our responsibility as a division is to give you the technical advice on how to grow crops, how to rear livestock, how to transfer those genetic traits in both soil science, how to bring you towards success. So that is why agriculture is a science. You will be wasting money if you don't understand, you know, the science behind agriculture. You'll be wasting money and you'll be wasting time. And let me use an example. The Poultry Contract Farm Initiative. That is why we started out giving farmers the 100 birds, then we increased to 500. All of that was a pilot to ensure that they got the technical aspect, the scientific aspect perfected. And now you have thousands of chickens on the island, given the inter-island ferry war, right, woes. We now have chicken on the island because of that science that, you know, that was introduced into poultry farming, yeah? So that is why we encourage persons to understand that agriculture is a science and a business.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with our conversations with the Secretary, because we're not done yet talking about agriculture as a business and as a science, most importantly, because, of course, it's all about building a food security for Tobago to sort of deal with some of the challenges, the other challenges that we are facing on the island. So don't go anywhere.
We are beauty, we are power, we are people in the sun, we are beaches, we are rivers.
There's a new date for Tobago Swim Fest, September 17th, 2023. Come and witness the main event, the 4-kilometer swim from Pigeon Point to Buku Point. More than $25,000 in prizes. It's a family affair, so come out from 11 a.m. on the beautiful Buku Beach. There'll be swimming races, sandcastle building, and seafood on sale. Come and enjoy a fun day at the beach. Calling swimmers from Crown Point to Charlottesville. Registration on the day.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival fever. Book your passage and come on over.
Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates.
Na 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 na.
Good morning, Tobago.
Na 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 na.
Wake up with Kandace and
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, because we are continuing our conversations this morning with the Secretary of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development, Mrs. Nathisha Charles-Pantin, as we talk about agriculture as a business and as a science. So before we went to the break, we were talking about just the way we're building out the poultry initiative. And we had a conversation yesterday, I think it was, with Mr. Ricardo, Alfred from TADCO, saying that, you know, it's been quite successful so far. The pilot project has been quite successful. And I know there's a goal. There's a goal as to how much chickens are we want to produce here in Tobago for consumption, and what's that goal?
250,000 per month, right? That's the goal. And I want to say that we have to start thinking about agriculture more than just, you know, being a home garden. As a matter of fact, what we have been speaking about at the division is how to separate the thinking and the services that we offer at the division, so that persons who fall into the category of being a home gardener, the conversation would be different for you, as opposed to a person who wants a farm, for commercial reasons. Yeah, the conversation would be different for you, right? So we are trying to tailor our services in the division to fit the needs of the stakeholder, yeah? And understanding business and understanding all those steps that you need to take in order to qualify for grants, for incentives, and for funding, whether it is nationally, locally, or internationally. All these things need to be taught so that we can build out the agricultural sector successfully.
And as you touched on funding, we know that through organizations like the IDB and so on, there is actually quite a lot of grant funding available for farmers in particular. But there are certain things that farmers need to do to be able to get those grants and access to that funding.
Yes. So we are having that conversation about building out an agribusiness center. What we have now is an incentives unit, right? It has a basic function, right? But we want to build out an agribusiness center to mentor associations and the individual farmer, because we have the responsibility to the individual farmer, right? That they would be able to access these services and qualify, right? I wish that my division had, you know, unlimited amounts of money to give every farm. I don't, right? And because we don't have the funding, or even the division, we have been reaching out to different agencies so that we can get funding to execute some of our projects. And I said to myself, we have to do the same for our stakeholders. We have to ensure that they also have access. And I made a commitment that I would not politicize food in the beginning, and I have not politicized it, right? I intend to go forward, understanding that in a crisis, all of us will feel the pinch if we don't get on board with these food initiatives. And I'll tell you something, the livestock sector has been non-existent. As a matter of fact, I've been visiting some farms, and I can tell you, they have the knowledge, but what they don't have is capacity. So even if we are thinking about providing services to a market, we cannot do it with one farmer having 6 sheep or 6 goats. We're looking for numbers, yeah? So we have started to look for markets for livestock, and we are going to host a lamb fest, and that is one of the initiatives towards creating a market. Traditionally, we don't use mutton. Lamb is not, you know, we don't say, all right, I'm going to cook lamb this Sunday for lunch, lamb and pie. That is not something, you know. So we are trying to show people how lamb can be prepared in different ways, right? To give you that taste. And I can tell you, I sent someone at Smokehouse, that Orange Hill Wim Link Road. And, you know, she turned to me and she said, you know, what do you think I should buy, the pork? I said, no, well, I know I love pub ribs, eh? But I said, no, try the lamb. And she was blown away. She was totally blown away. So I'm encouraging persons to come to the Lamb Fest October 8th and be equally blown away, right? Because we will have lamb prepared in different ways. As we speak, we have a master butcher training, showing farmers how to do the specialty cuts of lamb and different animals. Yeah, so we're working towards improving the livestock sector. And
what about in terms of artificial insemination and those initiatives that I think they've been struggling to properly get started and established within our space? Yes,
so we have been working with the Cubans, doing the embryonic fertilization, but with every step you need particular equipment and, you know, so we signed on the project, but, you know, as I said, agriculture is a science.
Yes.
And you need the resources, you know, to execute the science successfully, yeah? So we have been partnering with them. They came on the island just a few months ago, right? They did an assessment of what we would need in order the project to be complete. So we have been working with them to ensure that we improve the genetic, you know, aspect of livestock, improve the quality on the island.
And we know that Tobago sheep, they go for big money in Trinidad.
They go for big money in Trinidad, yeah. And we want to, I don't want to say we want to stop it from going Trinidad. We don't have the numbers right now to market to Trinidad. But we want to first cover our needs in Tobago by increasing the numbers that the farmers have on the island. So much so that we can supply the entire Caribbean region.
Cool. And now, I mean, as we continue to talk about agriculture as a science, there's also the tissue culture lab that I know had some challenges.
Yes, and we have been recognizing the tissue culture lab a lot over the past year because they have been doing an excellent job at providing planting material, not only for the private farmer, but for the government farms as well. So they're doing an excellent job. As a matter of fact, we're looking into building out the herbs and spices that they started already. They already started, and I'm impressed by the work that they're doing up there. So you will see a lot more happening in that area as well. And I'll tell you something, Tobagoanians traditionally, we love herbs.
Yes.
We do. As a matter of fact, if you just sneeze, somebody telling you, oh, go and take some bacano, or, so we always have a remedy for something, right? And we should not waste the knowledge that we have on the island. As a matter of fact, all these medication that we take in, it comes from somewhere. It comes from the plants that we have. So let's try to come together and prevent the spread of the giant African snail to begin with, because we have a lot of plants on the island, especially our forest reserve, that we depend on so that we can get a reliable source of water, right? We need to protect our resources on the island, because once you see we have an outbreak of that giant African snail, it eats everything. So we need to come on board. And that is why you see I'm saying I'm not politicizing agriculture at all, because I understand that once you see our land resources have been destroyed, whether it's by pests or by, indiscriminate dumping and waste and mismanagement and all of that, then we all will feel the pinch of, not doing the right thing. Yeah?
Now, and then as we're going to get ready to wrap up the conversation, what are the main points of focus for agriculture for the next few years in terms of what crops we want to see, what livestock we want to see coming out of Tobago, on a large scale?
So, Tobagoanians, we have a lot of knowledge on how to grow many different crops. And we don't want to box people into growing a particular crop, except it be for commercial purposes. So I can tell you that we're going into chicken because it's the cheapest source of protein. We're going into livestock, sheep and goat. We're going to mixed crops like onions, hopefully carrots very soon, because we want to reduce imports by 25% by 2025. So we're hoping that we can achieve that goal by growing exotics. And we're also going to do the traditional leafy vegetables because we can do those, hydroponics and different, right, using the different technologies to grow plants. So we don't want to box anyone in. But I want farmers to understand that, and I'm just addressing the wild notion that the division's supposed to buy everything, just like our marketing board used to be. But marketing board shut down for a reason, right? You must have a market before you can sell your goods.
Yes.
And it wouldn't be different for the division, it wouldn't be different for Talco or any entity in the space. You must have a market first, right? If we buy everything possible that a farmer can plant without a market, what will I do with it, right? So therefore, the first step is to identify the market, because we're talking about production. Then you have processing. So it's not enough to say I'm producing X, but I need to process it up to standard. Yes, I'm growing it within a particular standard, processing it and preparing it at a particular standard, and then distributing it and keeping it in a particular international standards. Yeah, because the idea is that we're not thinking, just Tobago and what we can, trade here. But we must adhere to standards so that we can export. So we have three things to consider. I want farmers to understand that you must production, processing, distribution. So marketing, finding that market is important. And then we're going to go into the root tubers, the chickens, the livestock. Once you have a market, the pigs, because we all have been working to build out the different markets for these produce, yeah? So once there's a market for your melangen, then melangen would be on the agenda, right? That is how we're doing it. So we're not just going to do it any ad hoc way, right? We're going to follow the process, the science, and transform our businesses, our commercial farmers, yeah?
All right. I want to thank you so much, Ms. Nathisha Charles-Pantin, for giving us a perspective on agriculture. A very needed conversation as we try to figure out how we should improve the food security in Tobago.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, viewers, it was a pleasure being with you this morning. So I just hope you have a very safe and wonderful day, and we will see you again tomorrow.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago.